Alex Eala rises like a phoenix to a packed grandstand, and Daniil Medvedev hits rock bottom to a mob on Louis Armstrong. Round one of the US Open is done. Here are the match stories that dominated this year. Okay, so a star is born with Alex Eala. Or should we say a star is already born? Alex Eala has dominated the headlines in 2025. At least that's what we have to say. She showed up at the US Open, this time in the main draw. She did not have to qualify. She had a really devastating qualifying last year where she made it to the final round and unfortunately lost in the final round of qualifying last year. But this year, she was in the main draw, playing her first match against Clara Tauson in grandstand. And to start, the match was, it wasn't really a full house. I think I would say grandstand was about a third full. It was really exciting and fun, and the crowd was packed with a local Filipino crowd, and everyone was cheering for her, which was great for everyone except for Clara Tauson. I think in the first set, she got really, really irritated with the crowd cheering for Alex Eala, which was surprising, I would say, because I think at this part of the season, everyone should know how popular Alex Eala has become and shouldn't be surprised by that crowd support. But Clara Tauson was surprised. She also wasn't playing really well in the first set, and she lost the first set. But she kind of gathered herself and won the second set and was dominating in the third. She was up 5-1 in the third, and I kind of thought at that point that she was going to run away with it and win the match, but tennis. Alex Eala fought her way back and got it to a tiebreak, and boy, what a tiebreak it was. It was such a back and forth tiebreak, and Alex Eala had her moments there to win it. She had match points a few times, and Clara Tauson was able to fight back a few times. It kind of reminded me of Alex Ayala's match against Maya Joint in Eastbourne this past year, which she lost. It was a very tough loss because she had so many opportunities to win. And I thought, oh no, are we going to go through that again? But no, Alex Eala was able to fight her way through and get the win in such a great moment, because this match, I think, as it got to the tiebreak and word spread across the grounds at the US Open, people just gathered and it just became a scene. Every bit of seating space, standing room space, the stairs, everywhere was packed with people. It actually became maybe a bit of a fire hazard, just a bit, but it definitely, nothing happened. It was totally fine. It was good vibes all around, and it was really great. I think Clara Tauson will probably take some things away from this match, hopefully to sort of be able to sort of control her emotions a bit, because there was a video review call in this match in the third set that went Alex Ayala's way, that kind of, I think, overtook Clara Tauson's emotions, and she just couldn't really recover from it. The crowd was also, cheering Clara Tauson's double faults, and which is not really great in tennis, but this is actually something that's really interesting in tennis, and I would really love all of your opinions on it. So please put it in the comments. Like, what do you think about this? Because in the moment, like when you're in the stadium and you're there, people are supporting their player. So anything that helps their player to win, they're going to cheer for it. I don't think they're cheering against, or, they're maliciously cheering against the opponent, but because their person gets an extra point, they're happy and thus cheering. So I don't think it's so much so, oh, I'm cheering for a double fault. You know what I mean? but they are cheering because, oh my goodness, this double fault gives my player an extra point. So let me know what you think. I do not cheer double faults because I just think it's not the person didn't earn that point. The point was given because their opponent, double faulted, and it's not an earned point, to say. So let me know what you think in the comments. I'm very fascinated by what people think because I see what the commenters say, or on all social media, where they're like, I can't believe they were cheering double faults, and they should have more class, or and I don't like that. I actually do not like that sentiment where people are like, they should have more class. Like, what does that mean? What does that mean? They should have more class? Because they're just supporting their player. They're not really against Clara Townsend in any way, shape, or form. They could care less about Clara Townsend. All they care about is Alex Eala and her performance and wanting to support her. So that is where I think those cheers were coming from. Another really cool moment in this match was the umpire. The umpire in this match was Kedar Nooney. Now, I think a lot of the people in this audience don't know Kedar Nooney. And if you don't know who Kedar Nooney is, I call him the Barry White of tennis. He has a very deep voice. There's also I think he's been used in a few social media clips now in tennis. He did some sort of ASMR thing. I think, was it the Madrid Open? I can't really remember. But Kedar Nooney has a very deep voice, and every time he says deuce, it's deuce. I can't even do it. It's very, very deep. And every time he would say deuce, the audience would be like, moo, because they didn't know. I don't think they weren't familiar, but it was very cute. It was very endearing. And this whole match, I think, just gave me good vibes. It was one of those moments where I feel like there were a lot of the audience who didn't know either player and were very fascinated by the popularity of Alex Eala, because yes, there were a lot of Filipino members of the crowd there who were all for Alex Eala, but there were a lot of American fans there that were shocked and surprised by the crowds and the number of people there, and were looking up Alex Eala and who is she. And it's interesting, we're going into the second round. They've put Alex Eala on court 7. I'm very interested to see what crowds show up and what the situation is going to be on court 7 today. She's going to be playing Cristina Busca from Spain. So it's going to be interesting to see what that situation is going to be. Is it going to be a packed house and lines around the block? We will see. In a completely contrasting moment, Daniil Medvedev has reached rock bottom. Daniil Medvedev crashes out of the US Open in round 1, losing to Benjamin Bonzi again on Louis Armstrong to effectively a mob that he created. This was a match that, coming into it, I thought this was Daniil Medvedev's chance to redeem himself. He lost to Benjamin Bonzi at Wimbledon in the first round, and it was definitely a shock, and this was his chance to sort of redeem himself. He lost the first 2 sets, and it was not looking good. I made a video in May called The Lost Boys. I made it based on some comments that Alexander Zverev made during the Rome Open, where he had lost a match and he was blaming his opponent, the audience. He was blaming everybody else but himself. And I just thought there were a group of players, Daniil Medvedev, Alexander Zverev, and Stefanos Tsitsipas, who were at one point the guys, the trio, the ones who were going to take over from the big 3 and win all of the Grand Slams. And that just never came to fruition. Other than Daniil Medvedev, they had not won Grand Slams, and currently they were falling behind the new big 2, Carlos Alcaraz and Jannik Sinner, who were now running away with all the Grand Slam wins and leaving them all behind. But at the time I made that video, I thought Daniil Medvedev was the closest to actually trying to mount a comeback and actually challenge Carlos Alcaraz and Jannik Sinner. Well, he now seems like the lostest of the lost boys. And after the first two sets of this match, I really thought, wow, this is, he just seems completely lost. And during the third set, when Benjamin Bonzi was serving for the match, I was pretty sad for Daniil Medvedev. It just seemed like he had no solutions. Benjamin Bonzi seemed like his kryptonite at this point, and he just didn't know what to do. And it wasn't just Benjamin Bonzi. I feel like there are just a lot of players on the tour these days that Daniil Medvedev doesn't have a solution for. So it seemed like that was the direction things were going, in. And then something crazy happened. A cameraman, well, something, Benjamin Bonzi is serving for the match. He misses his first serve. He's about to take his second serve when a cameraman comes out of one of the side entrances onto the court and is going into the center photographer pit in the middle of a first and second serve. So obviously the umpire, who's Greg Allensworth, stops the match, calls out to the photographer to get out of the way, and awards Benjamin Bonzi another first serve because it's a disruption. It's a let. Those are the rules. It's not it's not up for debate. Those are just the rules. Daniil Medvedev loses his mind. And I'm not exaggerating. You could look up the clips. It was a little bit disturbing the way he lost it. I think he definitely has anger issues. It's something we've seen before. But this was bordering on weird, sad, disturbing. And he loses his mind on Greg Allensworth, and it was pretty awful. And then starts riling up the crowd. And he keeps going and going and going, and the crowd goes with him and disrupts play. And Benjamin Bonzi can't serve. Some have said, oh, he should just have tossed the ball up and continued serving. But I feel that's quite unfair on Benjamin Bonzi to just expect him to carry on when he didn't start this. He was literally just trying to serve out a match that he was winning when Daniil Medvedev decided to basically start a riot. I think at some point, Daniil Medvedev realized what he had done and tried to, quiet down the crowd, but it was already too late. The crowd was already gone. This is a night match. They're probably like 17 honey deuces in. So it was hard to sort of bring them back down to earth. And eventually, after 6 minute delay, Benjamin Bonzi finally served, lost his serve. It gets to 5-5, then gets to a tie break. He loses the tie break. Daniil Medvedev wins the third set. And it was pretty disturbing. That's when I turned off the match, because for me, that's not sport. That's unsportsmanlike. What Daniil Medvedev did there was use unsportsmanlike tactics to try and win a match. He didn't use sort of a better, a better serve or a better forehand, or maybe a better tactic in the match to try and win. He tried to use the crowd. He tried to use kind of a disruption to win the match. Unfortunately, in the fourth set, Bonzi was physically compromised and he lost it pretty badly. I think it was a 6-love loss. And then in the fifth, he fought back and was able to win because Daniil Medvedev's hand started cramping and he just lost the fifth set, which, in my opinion, thankfully, because if he had won that match, that would have been pretty crazy. I think that would have actually been pretty crazy if he had won that match in that fashion. A lot of people have sort of put the onus on the umpire. Oh, he should have given Daniil Medvedev a warning. He should have given him a point penalty. And I really think he should have. I think he should have given him a warning. He shouldn't given him a point penalty because what he did deserved that. I think he did think he shouldn't. I think he thought he didn't want to escalate the issue further. Let me know what you think in the comments if he should have done all of that stuff. But I also think we need to look at the player and also hold him accountable, because I know exactly what's going to happen. In a week, a couple of weeks, we're going to be like, oh, Daniil Medvedev, isn't he so funny? Doesn't he always, rile up the crowd and do these silly things? Oh, but he's so smart about the game, and, he says all these smart things, and he's so, witty. I think it's unfortunate that we forgive awful behavior based on, oh, he's so smart and witty about the game. I think we need to hold people to a higher standard than that. And he needs to probably look at himself and realize, or at least figure out why he's not winning matches anymore. Because trying to win matches based on disruption, it's probably not going to win you a lot of matches, in my personal opinion. These are my opinions. Let me know what you think. I didn't like it. That's what I'm going to say. And people need to be a little bit more respectful of umpires, because it is... Greg Allensworth followed the rules. And just because you fall, the rules don't, fall in your favor, doesn't mean he was wrong. Tip for you. Anyway, what else happened in this week? On to better things. Or, in this round. Venus Williams. Venus Williams reminds us of her greatness. Venus Williams reminds us of her greatness. She lost her match to Karolina Muchova, but boy, did she fight. She took it to 3 sets. She won a set in that match. There was this swing volley she hit that I was like, that's for you people, you wild card chatters who are like, why did she get a wild card? Did you see the crowd, people? Just so, for everyone who says, why do people get wild cards? We all need to remember that these tournaments are money-making businesses. I understand that a lot of people, and I get it too, because I understand sport is sort of, it's not all about finances, it's not all about making money and all of that stuff. But in the end, these are businesses. And a lot of times, wild cards, they're not just for, oh, let's promote, the young talent in the game. It is. In fact, the U.S. Open gave a lot of wild cards to a lot of young Americans coming up. Katie McNally, Elliot Spizzirri. They gave it to a lot of young Americans who are coming up in the game, which I really did appreciate. But they also gave it to Venus Williams, who is a legend of the sport and also can fill a stadium as big as Ash, which she did. But she also put on a show and played so phenomenally. And it was really, really great to see her, back in a form that we remember. Because even during her last comeback, she didn't play this well. Like, when she played Wimbledon a few years ago, she did not play this well. Haven't seen her play this well in a while. So it was really, really nice to see her healthy again and playing this well and looking good doing it. She was wearing a dress, a custom dress by Eala, and she had this furry racket bag. And I was a little bit sad at first because I was like, oh, we only get to see the furry racket bag one time. But no, we are going to see the furry racket bag again because she just got a wild card to play doubles and she picked Leylah Fernandez to play doubles with, which I think is epic. I think they're going to make an excellent pair and hopefully they'll get to play more than one match. So look out for Venus Williams in doubles. I am sure wherever they play doubles is going to be packed as well. So we're still going to see Venus Williams at the US Open, and I'm really, really excited for that. Something else, Coco Gauff battled through her first round match. She was playing Eala Tomljanovic, and it gave a little bit of Serena Williams memories a little bit. Because if you remember, Tomljanovic is the player who basically retired Serena Williams on Ash. She beat her in 2022 to a massive crowd supporting Serena Williams, and she was able to sort of handle that, basically one-sided crowd, which is tough. So here she is back on Ash. Everyone is supporting Coco Gauff, and this was a battle. I was actually mostly listening to this match because I will tell you why in a second, but I was mostly listening to this match and it was so loud. I had the Amex radio, which, hot tip, if you're watching some other match but you want to pay attention to one of the matches on the big stadiums, especially Ash or Louis Armstrong, get an Amex radio, put it in, and you can just listen to the commentary, and you can actually hear a lot of the ball hitting, which is great. Like, it actually gives you a really good sense of the match, which I kind of like. But yeah, I was listening to this. They were playing very, very well. The first set was not that great. Second and third set, because Eala was playing excellently and took the second set, were elite. Like the rallies were over 10 shots long. They were playing really, really long rallies, and Eala really, really stood her ground. Coco Gauff has hired a new coach, Gavin McMillan. He is the guy who helped Aryna Sabalenka fix her serve, and Coco Gauff is looking to fix her serve. She didn't serve really great in this. The double faults were still there. Her forehand also was not exactly working to its fullest in this match, but her athleticism always gets her the win. She was winning the long rally battle in this, and she was able to grit her way through and win this match. But it was a tough battle. It was really a tough battle. But Eala Tomljanovic, she reminded people how good she is in settings like this. The crowd doesn't get to her. She can handle the heat of an Armstrong cheering for the other opponent, and she played really, really well. I think Eala could do well to remember these moments because I think she's a really great player, and if she can remember these moments and take it into the rest of the season, I think she could really, really do well and get to the top of the game, and get her ranking a lot higher than it currently is. But yes, that was a really great match. Coco Gauff is into the second round, but barely. We'll see how far she goes, because that was definitely a battle to get into the second round. And finally, to tell you not finally, because I do have one more bonus. I do have one more bonus at the end, but where I was while Coco Gauff was playing was I was on court 5, watching the one and only entertainer, Gael Monfils. There is nothing like a first round night match on court 5. It's an outside court, tiny court. They put Gael Monfils on a tiny court, and it was packed. So court 5 is a middle court in a row of 3. So there's court 4, 5, and 6, and 5 is in the middle. It was the last match in that trio. So Gael Monfils is in the middle. All of the seating on all of the courts were filled. All of the sides were filled. It was absolutely jam-packed, and the vibes were immaculate. Everyone was screaming. Everyone was yelling. It was 5 sets of just brilliant tennis. He was playing against Roman Safulin, who is a tough, tough player. But Gael Monfils is still kicking, and he can still push even the best players. And he pushed Roman Safulin to 5. He didn't win, but he did entertain. And it was just one of those moments. There's nothing, again, like a night session outside court, US Open, vibes are high, and it was just a fun time. So that was the way I ended my round 1 session at the US Open, and it was the best time. And here's your little bonus. Carlos Alcaraz cut his hair. Can everyone calm down? It is okay. Hair grows back, and it actually does look good. Does no one remember Brad Pitt from 2004 and 2005? Like Ocean's 11. That was a good look. A really good look. Also, like David Beckham. Also the shave look. That looked good. Carlos looks good. It's also going to grow back in like 5 minutes. He's going to wake up tomorrow and it's going to be like an inch long. Like his hair grows like a weed. But I've also never had this much conversation about somebody's hair like ever. Everyone's talking about it. It is kind of crazy, but also kind of awesome because it kind of, it's nice to see tennis stories kind of step outside of the world of tennis because it does show that the sport is growing. It's seeping out into sort of the page 6 People magazine world, and people are talking about a player's hair, and then you're sort of like, oh, the sport's getting out there into sort of like the casual news, sphere, which is good. Anything like that is good for the sport. So I guess I'll talk about Carlos Alcaraz's hair for like 5 minutes. Anyway, this has been your MASH stories for round 1 of the US Open. I will be back for round 2. Also going to have a podcast with Nick on Friday where we will talk about all things US Open, catch up with what Nick has been up to because he's been gone for a while. And I will pop in and out. We're going to have an episode also about doubles because doubles coming up. I just talked about Venus Williams playing doubles. There are also a few other wild cards in there that are great. The men's list hasn't popped out yet, but I am expecting some great names there too. So stay tuned for our doubles episode with Will Buchek. He's all about the doubles. He knows a lot more about doubles than I do. So it'll be nice to talk to him about that. And that should be coming out either Wednesday or Thursday. Leave all your questions in the comments. Subscribe. We're almost at 1,000. We're almost at 1,000 subscribers. So exciting. Anyway, love you guys. Bye.